Welcome to the CMO Chapter podcast, where we dive deep into the dynamic world of Chief Marketing Officers. Join us as we explore the careers, insights, and strategies of top marketing executives who shape the brands we know and love. Whether you're a seasoned marketer, aspiring CMO, or simply just curious to understand what it really takes to step into the shoes of a CMO. This podcast is your backstage pass to discovering what it's like to really lead and innovate in the ever-evolving landscape of business. Stay tuned as we uncover the stories of the visionaries behind the brand. I am absolutely delighted this week to welcome the wonderful one and only Shannon Barnes. Shannon, welcome.
Thank you, Lucy.
Shannon, I've had quite a few conversations with you, I think over more so the last year. And one thing I've always really enjoyed for our conversations is just, your ability to, your enthusiasm, I think naturally, and, your energy. And I think one reason I wanted to get you on this podcast was I feel like you're going to have, you have that impact, I think, on people where you can really sort of say it how it is, give a bit of advice as well, which is what we're looking for here.
Yeah.
And yeah, look, really, really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. So I'm going to start by saying, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you so much. And thank you for that lovely little preamble. It was very, very kind. So my name is Shannon Barnes. I am currently head of marketing and communications at Where's Super, and but been pretty much had a career for about 25 plus-ish years. So been around the traps a fair bit. And I think that the key thing as well is to sort of start when I talk about my career journey as well, is that I've done a lot of different things. So I am not a career marketer by any stretch of the imagination, but I've always been in roles that have involved very, very much, customer member outcomes, very much around what does good look like from a delivery perspective, but also from an outcome perspective, and then really focused on sort of supporting businesses with growth agendas. So I think that that's always been a theme, regardless of the role that I've been in. That's certainly been a theme that's run pretty consistently through the last 25 odd-ish years.
Thank you for summarizing that. And I want to scale it right back to the early part in your career. Now, am I right in understanding that you started out is it agency, sort of more?
Started in PR back in the day, where there were a number of big American PR agencies in Melbourne. And so I did PR at RMIT straight out of school. So that was, again, I probably didn't really know what PR was, but one of my sister's friends had done the course and said, look, if you like, people, you're a good communicator. It could be a good option. So I investigated that and was very fortunate to get into that course. That was a pretty hard process at the time to get into. So, obviously, uni is uni. I must say it to me, you probably did the bare minimum to get through the 3 years. But, that's everyone's horses for courses. But really that did really ignite my love for communication, for how do we disseminate a message? How do we actually make sure that people understand what we're trying to do? But also with public relations, there's a commercial element. You're pushing a narrative or a product or a brand to drive commercial outcomes. I mean, that's what it is. So, and this was back in the day when there was no email and it was phones, and you had to call journalists and actually speak to people and be prepared that they might put the phone down on you, or actually just really lean in to building relationships. But you build relationships by giving them good stuff. So don't just, and I think that's where one of my early learnings was, you can't be just give it to everyone and hope someone might pick up it. You have to be really thinking about, what does that journalist cover? What's their interest? Have they looked at this stuff before? And also clearly manage your clients' expectations, because everyone wants the front page, or everyone wants the back page, or everyone wants the front page of the business section. The reality is that is not happening all the time. Um, but how do you manage their expectations around what does good look like? And I think
Right.
that again was is really, really essential to like, and again, that stakeholder piece, helping your stakeholders understand what is the expected outcome for that piece of work. And this is what, I always say you under promise and over deliver.
Yeah.
That is the
Yeah.
best position to be in, right? And so, yeah, that was the early days in PR. So I worked also for it was actually called Great Advertising, and they had a PR arm. And so I went into that, did a lot of envelope, stickers on envelopes and name tags and guest lists and ringing journalists and checking phone numbers and faxing media releases. But you have to understand the machine. You have to understand that all of those component parts feed into the end outcome that the client sees and the public sees. So, I think that's really important work that you do as you're building and understanding the components of a skill set that you're driving. Yes, you want to be eventually the person that's writing the media release. You won't be
Ah.
that person on day one. So, and you're going to have to do some grunt work. And I don't think that should be, underestimated about how much you learn doing those component parts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when I look back at your career, you've done a lot. You've had some great exposure working for what I would say some of Australia's top tier one brands within the financial services sector. So when we look at, you've had, I mean, are we talking about 8, 10 years now where you've been at that head of sort of GM level?
Been it's sort of be 10 years now being at that senior level, and really interesting over the 10 years of leading very different teams
Mm,
with different levels of impact, but all sort of, I've led smaller teams, really, really, really big teams,
mm,
very eclectic teams, more techie teams, more business focused delivery teams, and obviously marketing, digital, and comms have kind of been a constant sort of part of
mm,
that journey. But yeah, it's been, I've been very fortunate to work with some really amazing companies, but also that those businesses have also allowed me to grow as well. Sort of taken, in some cases, taken a chance on me and my skill sets because they've liked what they've seen me do in certain roles and are able to then track those same
uh-huh.
components, and it might be a completely different role, but those attributes still remain. And I think that is really an important part of when you are recruiting your senior leaders, is actually thinking about what are the true attributes. You don't necessarily need someone who's a SME.
Mm,
That's not
uh-huh.
that mightn't be the right person, but you need someone who is going to be able to see the big picture, connect the dots for the team, mobilize the team, but importantly, provide air cover, allow them
Yeah.
to do their jobs and also get out of the way and support them from the side. You don't need to be in the detail all the time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. And I think you've just nailed it there. There's a lot where, there's individuals out there that aren't getting that from leaders. And so therefore they're looking elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that comes down to role modeling a lot because I have been very fortunate to have some
Mm,
really exceptional leaders in my life. And two of them are still in my life today. And even though I worked with them many years ago and I've become, we're really good friends now. And I've seen their careers also go from strength to strength. And I think what's core to that is that we both saw in each other something that we both liked,
yeah.
they saw in me attributes that would help them deliver to, their goals. And I saw in them someone that could help bring the best out in me. And I think that is really when you find the most perfect relationship is when you're both understanding that this is for mutual outcomes and that you both understand the strengths of what you bring to the table.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So had you always, because I find that like from my perspective as a recruiter, I'm having conversations a lot with managers that might be at that, say, we'll call it 120, 140 mark, and they're still trying to find the feet, and they're still, working out, do I want to be a CMO one day?
Yeah.
I mean, some are cut for it and they absolutely want to go for it. And some go, you know what, it's not for me. And that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Always had that drive and ambition. I mean, it sounds like you've obviously had some great role models, as you've said. But I mean, really, it's like you've just got this whole boost of confidence, but in a good way.
Yeah.
And really made it work for you.
Yeah, I would say that possibly I haven't always been this way. I've always loved my work. I've always enjoyed the people I've worked with. I've always enjoyed, I've made it a point that I've worked for organizations that I could really get on board with, and I love where they're going. The people piece is essential for me. I have to feel like it's the culture that will bring out my best, and therefore I can be my best. So, but I would say it was probably after I've got 3 children. So I would think it was after I had my third, and I was really thinking around what does next look like, with my career. I was product manager at the time
Yeah.
at a bank, and I loved it. I loved the people I worked with and all of that sort of thing. But I was like, is there an itch? Like, is there something I feel like, do I want to explore something different? And when I meant different, wasn't necessarily, that organization. It was I was looking for a challenge.
Yeah.
I had been a product manager for about 10 years. I had just covered every single retail banking product, including and also in business banking as well, and enjoyed it because it was like
Yeah.
running your own business, right? I loved it. And we were given a lot of support, but a lot of autonomy to do the things we needed to do. So it was a great learning experience for me, and I look back on that in very, very
Yeah.
fond memories. But I do think it was probably at that moment when you kind of probably you are at a bit of a juncture, where you can go, do I lean into this and push myself? And it might be a challenge for the family. I mean, I've got little people at that stage, a husband's working full time, all of the normal, things that a lot of people are going through. But I was decided that I wanted to explore that. I didn't want to ignore that little,
Yeah.
the little buzzing. And I was very fortunate that when I moved to Medibank, I had a fantastic leader there, but she introduced me to someone who is now one of my, she's one of my favorite people. And it was under her leadership was where I think I really understood what was possible. And, I really understood that I don't need to shy away from opportunities just because I've never done that before, or
Yeah.
I've never, I don't think, I'm sure there's far more qualified people than me, the usual stuff that plays out
Yeah.
in your head. But I think with her support, it was like, she'd go, Shan, you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
This team's coming to you, you're doing this, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And it's funny that at the start, you are a little uncomfortable and you're like, oh, God, will someone turn around and go, why the hell is Shannon doing that stuff, And you actually find out, no one's doing it. No one is going, why the hell is this woman doing these things? And then you do start building the confidence. And the more you understand a business, the more you can bring to the table, the more you can bring other experiences that you've had to the table to help problem solve, identify opportunities, leadership, that people piece.
Yeah.
Really important. When you've experienced those things before, you can bring them with you.
I've got a question, and it might hopefully be not too much of a curveball, but I'd love to get your thoughts on this
Yeah.
one. So I have a lot of individuals that, I'm going to say, marketers that, as I said, are at that sort of mid-range mark.
Yeah.
And certainly probably more so at the moment. They, I often say, people aren't looking for a new job, they're looking for the right leader. And that's a lot of the time.
Yes.
And a lot of, senior leaders, CMOs that I've had conversations with, they said, well, I've always not been afraid to ask the tough questions in interviews because it's all well and good saying, oh, but you end up knowing what good looks like when you're going for interviews, but
Yes.
not everyone does.
Yeah.
So in your experience, is there any advice you give to people that perhaps are interviewing at the moment, and they're just trying to work out, it might be an amazing brand, but is this person really going to be the right one for me? Like, what would you say to them?
I, this might be controversial. I don't focus on technical skills.
Okay.
I assume if you've been working in marketing at a relatively sort of meaty business,
Mm,
that you know what you're doing. I am assuming a lot. I know that, and things come out in obviously in the chat because you obviously talk about the technical, but I don't hire on the technical. I hire on the potential and the type of attitude, energy, and perspective that they come with.
yeah.
Because I think the worst thing you can do is hire a whole heap of people that are like you. It's the worst thing
Yeah.
you can do. I look for everyone. Like, there are people that will have different strengths, right? I look for people that will have a different strength to me. So if I'm someone who is very, sort of, I operate at this level, I'm
Yeah.
not in the detail. I need someone who's in the detail. I can't have another person that's like me because the whole thing's going to fall over, right? And I look for really people that can make a connection because
Mm,
in our business, it is all about relationships. It doesn't matter if you work for a bank, a superannuation company, an insurer, or, a technology company. It is on relationships, and we call it stakeholder management or whatever we want to
yeah.
call it,
Yeah.
but it is
Yeah.
understanding people's drivers. If you can do that, you will succeed. And I think that's the other point is that it's really understanding that as it doesn't matter what level of the business you come in either. Like, I don't want people to think that that's a more senior attribute or
Mm,
capability. If you can demonstrate value and that you can think outside of the box, even in a more junior role, I would say you are setting yourself up for success.
yeah. 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 I agree.
And take initiative. Don't wait for someone to tell you. Now, it mightn't, be the right time and all that sort of thing. But if you have ideas or ways that you think we could do things differently, prepare, schedule time with your
Mm-hmm.
leader or a more senior or a colleague, workshop it and come with a pitch. Come with like a thought through. Now, no one is going
Mm,
to say no to someone with a good idea. Like, it's just, and if they do, you probably shouldn't be there. Like, you don't work there. So I think there's something in that. Like, don't underestimate your thinking as well, even if you are in a more junior role, because what will get you from sort of that middle area, in the whole hierarchy,
yeah.
it is those little extra bits that you bring as an individual that will get you to the next bit.
100%. And I think that word initiative, I've never known a leader ever in my career ever say, oh gosh, I can't believe that person's just, it was so inappropriate. A good leader's always going to be like, good on you. That's
I
awesome.
love that. I love when people will say, I've got someone in my team. He's probably maybe two below, like under a couple leaders. He reached out to me, had some ideas. I loved those ideas. We circled back. We've gone and talked to some other teams, and now we're working around the genesis of his idea has obviously blossomed, but that is a fantastic thing. Like, someone showing initiative, someone showing that they actually are thinking broader than what they are essentially on their PD.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get your thoughts. So I'm getting a lot of individuals at the moment that, are really starting to, think, okay, well, do I want to be a generalist marketer or do I want to be a specialist?
Yeah.
And, we're looking at the future, the evolution of, the CMO role, what's happening there.
Yes.
And I'm getting lots of different opinions around, I've got graduate marketers that are coming out of university and they're all thinking social
Yes.
media. But then what's going to happen? We're going to have all these, social media gurus everywhere.
Yes.
So I'd like to get your thoughts on that. If I was coming out of uni, what would you say to them? Like, is it best to just broaden out their expertise as much as possible?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because, when I came out of uni, social media did not exist.
Yeah.
Nor
Yeah.
did, really, I mean, the internet had started, but no one was using it for business purposes. I mean, no one had a phone unless you were a, used car salesman.
Yeah.
And the phone probably cost about $3,000 or something. So, probably more than that. But you know what I mean? Like things have changed significantly. And that's probably, in my personal opinion, I don't think when you are first out of uni, that is your time to spread your wings. That is your time to get a taste of all of the component parts that make up that very, very, very broad umbrella called
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah.
Because it might be that you're more of a creative. It might be more that you are more of a content person. It might mean it might evolve that you actually got a more of an interest in data and
Yeah.
insights, and all of the wonderful things that come out of that world. Or you might be someone that actually ends up using that as a segue into more of a digital role. So
Yeah.
I kind of think especially when you are out of uni, or even after your first, second, or third role, um, give everything a little bit of a go. Like you will have plenty of time to specialize, plenty of time. And I just know that that's one of the things that I loved working in agency straight after uni, not necessarily doing all my timesheets and stuff. That was not so fun.
Yeah.
Um, but what it did do was give you a taste of a little bit of everything. So even though I was mostly in PR, advertising, sort of adjacents, we were doing everything from, events to, really heavy media work to media training, which I used to
Yeah.
love doing, helping with at the time I was on the side. Writing, you really hone your craft in terms of how you write and you communicate. And I think, and now, I mean, that was just my experience. And now I think about, I've worked in operational roles. I've done
Yeah.
like big, large scale program delivery. Uh, I've had like a sort of a kind of a techie element to my role where I've had testing and environment management. And, it's like all of those things gave me a taste of something that now comes together so I can understand technology. So I think that if one thing anyone who listens to this walks away with, don't not underestimate the importance of understanding technology.
Yeah.
It is a technological world. You have to understand it. You have to understand your data. What does your data allow you to do, not do? What do your system, what even your MarTech stack does? What
Mhm.
does it do? What are the opportunities? How can you optimize? That for me nowadays would be I think that's pretty much a no regrets
Yeah.
skill set that really marketers, regardless if you want to be a social media specialist or a brand specialist or a content writer, you should really understand your tech ecosystem because that will help you bring your ideas to life in a far more seamless way.
Perfect. I think you're so right. Absolutely. And especially with advances with AI, it's just going to keep on evolving as we know.
And marketing will evolve significantly with those developments.
Absolutely. Is there any advice that, you sort of look back and think, God, I wish somebody, had once shared that with me when I was, 3 years into my career? Is there any words of wisdom or anything you sort of recap and go, I wish I knew that then?
There's a couple of things actually that I look back now and go, uh, that they're the things that will get you to a certain
Right.
level. So being really good at delivering something, an outcome with the best for the, optimal for the business, optimal for the people involved, and optimal for the end customer, absolutely critical. So you have to get stuff done, just full stop. Don't dither, just make it happen, right? Just get it done. That will get you so far. But then you have to, I remember this is another one of my other favorite boss said to me, Shannon, I'm not recruiting you because you're good at getting stuff done and that you're good with mobilizing people and you're good with getting, everyone on the same team and all that sort of thing. I am recruiting you in this role because I want you to deliver through others. You now are influencing, providing the air cover, doing all of the senior stakeholder stuff to allow your team, your direct reports and their teams now to deliver. She said, the skill that got you to this table talking to me is not now the skill I want you to now, explore. Different. So, it's kind of that difference between when you go to the what, it's like, you're a SME or you're you're known for being a problem solver or fixing issues and all that sort of stuff. That will get you into the consideration set. Then you have to demonstrate that you can be the person that can empower others to then do all of the things that you were known for, right? And I think that was something at the time. I remember thinking I was kind of a little bit, it threw me a little bit because I was like, but that's kind of my whole, like, that's what I'm known for is like, just, get something's a bit of a problematic or whatever. It was like, let's get Shannon involved, that sort of thing. But that's not necessarily the skill that will get you to the table. And the only other thing I will tell you, the share, which I actually even say it to my team today, is never fall in love with your own idea. Your idea can be the start of a bigger thing, but your idea will very rarely be the end game. So so never double down on what you think is right because it's a collective. One person cannot know everything. So understand and harness the skills and thinking and knowledge of those around you to build on that idea. And again, I think that is something that I think my family would suggest I don't do that, but I think I do that. So I think that's a really important component of when you are looking to stretch and innovate and really, sort of really have that true blue sky thinking. You are contributing to a broader set of ideas.
Absolutely. And I think what you've said there is really going to resonate with our listeners. Absolutely. And I think it's really wise words of advice. I love what you've said about not falling in love with your own idea, because there's been times when I absolutely have, and it's easy to get offended.
And also what happens, especially when you're quite an outgoing person like I am, I appreciate that what I bring to I can actually make people then just shut down. Like if I double down in my opinion, well, people are going to go, oh, she's so loud and she's so opinionated and she's not budging. That doesn't help anyone, because what I've done is essentially just taken all of the oxygen out of the room and not allowed everyone to just pepper in, their little nuggets. Because, maybe it's a bit of a harsh learning I probably have to learn. But, that is something you have to realize is that you are bringing something to the table that you want others, and you need to encourage others to feed into and collaborate.
Absolutely. I just want to touch on and probably pushing forward to, I guess, your career now in some ways. But when we talk about, I guess I meet a lot of, CMOs, etc., GMs, executives. And, there's a lot there that have done a lot of work behind the scenes to really work on personal brand.
Yeah.
I say personal brand, I'm talking they're in conferences or they're doing, speeches, etc. And, they're excellent networkers, I should say. Is that something that you've had to work out yourself, or is there any advice you give to anyone that's wanting to, I guess, be a bit more recognized externally?
I think it's really important to nurture your networks. So I'm fortunate. I've worked in Melbourne for the majority of my career.
Mm,
Lucy, you'll know this. Everyone knows someone who knows you. I routinely will have someone reach out to me, that I have worked with and go, oh my God, so and so's just joined our business. And if you know
yeah.
them from blah, 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 So, I think it's really important to really nurture the network that you cherish. Like, I'm not saying, be in contact with everyone. I'm
No.
saying the people that bring you joy, or, you learnt something from them. What I've learned as well is that no one ever says no to, do you want to, hey, I'm going to be in the city. We haven't chatted for ages, but do you want to catch up? I want to, can we shoot the breeze or talk about, talk
Mm,
about old days or whatever? People do like that people want to catch up with them, right? And I'm not suggesting that you have to do it all the time, but that is my networking. So I don't necessarily go to, sort of networking events or whatever. I do like the financial services conference that
yeah.
gets run in Melbourne. I do like that because it's a bit of everything. It's more techie,
Mm,
it's more customer. It kind of melds a lot of different component parts together, which I actually really enjoy. And, obviously run into a lot of people at that
of
thing.
course.
But really, for me, it's about my personal network. And that's the network that I have cultivated and I have nurtured over the time of, 25 years, right? So, um, I don't want anyone to ever be shy to reach out to someone, and it might be just that, hey, I saw this, Shannon would love to, can you add me to your network and can we catch up or something like that? That is no drama. I am more than happy to chat to people. Likewise, I am very appreciative when other people are happy to have a chat with me, when I'm doing the reach out.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I do
Yeah.
think there's that, the swings and roundabouts. You get back what you put in.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Just finally, is there any thought leaders or even, I guess you've mentioned a conference there, the financial services
Yeah.
conference, any resources or even books, even that you'd say, you know what, these guys or this particularly was a real benefit for me, sort of as I've kind of got more senior or promoted? Is there anything there that you'd sort of recommend?
I am probably going to be really disappointing, but no. I think it's actually having a finger on the pulse of the world.
Yeah.
We understand what is going on in the world, whether it is a state election or, what's happening in Europe or the US or whatever. Actually know what's going on in the world is all I could stress, because that brings insights. Because, we talked about AI before, and we know all about, chat GPT. And then we obviously had, the hoo-ha around the Chinese version, a
Uh,
week or so ago that crashed the markets. Just know stuff. Like, you don't have to be an expert, but make it your point to understand the world. And then what does that mean for your job, right? Because all of these macro global uh, workings,
yeah.
they all disseminate. They all come into the Australian economy. They all then come into our business. If we're working in financial services, it absolutely comes down in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
And especially if you're in retail brands, that sort of thing, even more so. Like, how do you start when you start knowing more about the economy and what people on the ground are feeling and experiencing? That should change the way you are marketing. That should
Mm,
change the way you are connecting with your end audience. So, yeah, so I can't sort of, I must say, I could not stress that enough. But understand what's going on in the world and don't get your news from TikTok.
yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I think, you know what? It's such a valid point because I asked that question to quite a lot of different leaders, and there's some that, have read, specific books that go, this for me was a real, change, it really sort of helped me out, or whatever it was. But I think you're so right. Sometimes it's the simplest things and the simplest influences. And you
Yes.
think, right, just, getting commercial, especially if you're wanting to become one day the big leader.
Exactly. Understand what will impact your business. And it's not going to be in a book that was written 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's happening now. We are we are part of a global economy. Now, Australia is very small in that global economy, but we still feel the ramifications, good or bad, with what is happening in other parts of the world. And therefore, that definitely impacts the way you want to connect with from your business to your end customer. And I just think that that's a really, you've got to understand how it all connects.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Shannon, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you so much. I just think you've got this energy about you. And I know so many people are going to really find this episode really, really exciting. So
Oh, thank you, Lucy. Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for making it so easy for me. I've never done
ah,
podcast before. So this is very exciting.
you nailed it. You nailed it.
Well, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed it.
Remember, the road to CMO isn't always linear. It's filled with challenges, decisions, and moments of transformation. Whether you're charting your course or navigating a career shift, the experiences, wisdom shared today, as with our guests, is invaluable. Thank you for joining us. Keep dreaming big, keep pushing boundaries, and remember that your journey towards becoming a CMO is as much about the destination as it is about the growth you experience along the way. Until next time, continue to innovate, evolve, and carve out your path to CMO.